Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from FFScoutcast.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Alex.
And my name's Luke.
Welcome everyone. It's great to be back after our Christmas break. David, what have we got coming up on the show?
Yeah, so we're going to start off by looking back how we did over the Christmas period and try and loosely sum up how we did over a collection of 4 game weeks, which I'm sure will be really easy to do, remembering exactly what happened over 4 game weeks. We'll do our best. Then obviously we're going to mostly look forward, really, entering a very new stage of the season. So we're going to be looking at the impact of the transfer window. Obviously we've had some ins and outs already. We're going to keep an eye on some of the budget players that are going to move onto our radar as a result of any changes that happen during the transfer window. We're going to look in detail at teams who have the best fixtures in January and February. The FA Cup has come into things now. We've got the League Cup coming to a culmination. Champions League's coming back. So there's lots of factors that are affecting, what we are going to be looking at with fixtures. We're going to obviously focus on differentials and hidden gems within that. And then the big sort of talking point that a lot of people have had in the last couple of weeks is mostly generated from the fact that everybody wants Salah back now. Everybody is now counting their pennies very carefully and is a bit unsure of perhaps maybe what the best combination of popular premium assets are. So we're going to break that down, have a look at the different candidates for who we can realistically have in the higher brackets and see if we can work out the best combination there. And as usual, we're going to look forward to specifically this game week in terms of things like differentials. We're going to see how we got on over Christmas. I believe some of us did really badly, including me, probably. And clean sheets as well, before we then look at what our specific transfer plans are as well.
Okay, well let's start with having a look back, a brief look back at our festive fixtures. So that's.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. But it's all right. You can go last. No, not last. So near last. But it's game weeks 18 to 21. So just a reminder, this is what the average did. The overall average was 218 points over those 4 fixtures, and that's 55 points per match. So that's what we want to aim for, really. So I'll go first because I'm top of the pile this week. Here's my team. 264 points I got and a 66 point average. So yes, I had a good Christmas. I went up from 47k to 22k. I did no hits. I was completely dull, my dullest Christmas ever, perhaps. And I just got in Pogba.
You Scrooge.
Yeah, it was a real Scrooge. I just thought I had the likes of Sane, Kane and Salah, and I just kind of wanted to keep them, really. And I just kind of kept them and just put a bit of faith in them. I got Pogba in pretty quick. Saw that Cardiff game and thought I'll have some of that. I got Ings in, that hasn't worked out well. And I got Foster in, or Fosteransky now, who is doing really well for saves. He managed to rack up 9 in his last match, so he's the new Fabianski perhaps. So it's good. Yeah, it's good that I capped with. And so having Kane and Salah, really, that was 3 straight 24-point captain hauls, really, and that was the difference, really, between me and the average. A couple of down bits. Benched Sane at the wrong time for his blank, and I also benched Lucas Dean's 17 points. I was expecting more rotation, and it never came. So I was hoping the points come off my bench, never did. That's the story of my Christmas, really. David, you're next. I've worked out. I don't know if you want to reveal your points and your average, but I worked it out for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can just read it from what you worked it out. I got 241 points, an average of 60, which is hard to complain with, really. Basically, I think I went into game week 18 6k. Overall, and I came out of it 8k, having kind of dipped in and out of the top 10k. I think halfway through that I went down to about 14, and then I went back in again up to 8. I guess the top story, which feels like old news now because it was ages ago, but in terms of covering it on the Scoutcast, I have now finally had a captain blank this season. That was game week 18. That was Sane, which was a bit unlucky because I think we all kind of agreed that probably could have scored in that game. I think he had like the most shots in that game, hit the post, at the side netting. This game against Palace, I think it was, which nobody saw that being Palace winning that. So, it was annoying, but, I consider myself unlucky rather than having necessarily made the wrong choice. Although I did have Salah that week in my team. He got 12 points. So maybe I did make the wrong choice, didn't I? But yeah, sort of outside of that, there's not too much to complain really. I think our teams are really similar, Joe. So a lot of the things that went wrong for you went wrong for me because you have Sané as your captain as well. I also benched Dean for his 17 points. And then what I was going for, my general strategy for Christmas was I kind of went for like a luxury bench cover. The first transfer I made going into Christmas was to get Højbjerg out, who, as we all know, ended up scoring against Man City, and got in Snodgrass. So that I ended up I had 5 midfield players that I would like to start if I had the choice. I had 3 strikers that I'd like to start in the hope that, if there was any rotation, who was coming in rather than a Højbjerg, who previously I thought was someone who was only ever going to get me 2 points. It'd be a Snodgrass or a Jimenez or, someone who actually had a realistic chance of getting any attacking returns. But I never needed them. That was the funny thing, was the rotation really wasn't as bad as we thought. And so I was, playing 3-5-2 most weeks. Transfers didn't, so Snodgrass did nothing for me. Ings was then my next transfer, did nothing for me. Got Mitrovic out, who obviously has done, a fair amount since I got rid of him. But I was quite happy with I then eventually cashed in my 2 transfers in Gameweek 20, and I finally got rid of Alonso and got David Luiz, which worked out perfectly because David Luiz got an assist and a clean sheet and bonus. And I upgraded Fraser into Pogba, who obviously has done a mad one as well. So I was quite happy with those transfers. And yeah, like I said, up to 8k now. So, or rather down from the start of Christmas, but up from the 14k that I dropped to.
No, I think you've consolidated well, and I think the message there was that patience paid off as well. So yes, we all overestimated rotation, but it was a very patient approach. I know Andy sadly can't be here, but he was on the last Scoutcast we had, and he made some unbelievable moves really with Salah and Son out just before Christmas.
I think he's worked out he cost himself something like 60 points, and that's before you even factor in whether or not he would have captained those players. I do feel for Andy. I do feel for him.
Yeah, so he lost 60 points there, but yeah, I mean, new phase of the season coming up, so hopefully he'll bounce back. As you're next, how did you do? 100? No, you reveal your figures there.
We all get the tiny violins out because it's been a nightmare. Down from 83k to 276k, which is one of the lowest I've ever been at this stage of the season. Where'd you start? I sold Brooks before he got 15 points. I benched Digne, that's 17 points. I didn't get Son. I didn't have Fraser or Jimenez. I didn't have Salah. Every time I tried to be patient with players, so I doubled up on Man City midfielders, and they decided to lose 2 matches in a row for the first time ever. I then decided to get rid of Sterling and Sané, and then they both got attacking returns against Liverpool. Whenever I show patience, they don't deliver. Whenever I get fed up with them, they do deliver. Like Pogba, didn't get Pogba in for all his hauls, bought him in, no haul for Pogba. Same with Salah as well. It's like last season when it was all going right. It was like every decision I made was good, and I got returns and went up the rank. This year, it is literally every single 50-50 call I make goes completely to pot, and it's just really frustrating. And I saw the Meet the Manager with Mark when he was talking about kind of frustrations with the game, and I think being on the Scoutcast a bit and being on Twitter a bit more this year, it does get to you, doesn't it? When you just every week you're looking at your team, you're thinking, it looks all right, and then you just down the rankings even more.
Well, I've experienced that definitely.
Yeah, frustrating. But the good news is Luke is below me.
Okay.
So I've got someone to share in my misery.
I'm sure Luke thinks that's good news.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Oh yeah, I'm chuffed.
Okay, well let's get Luke's team up then. And Luke, what was the extent of your fall?
Oh, there's so many things. I don't want to bore you guys too much, but basically it starts City's demise. I mean, the week I bought in triple City attack, David Silva, Sterling, Sané, is the first time they lost, and then they continued to be rubbish for the next few game weeks. So that was nicely timed. That was the time I was on the Scoutcast just before I left on holiday, with the whole Digne getting double figures and Mina getting me 0 points. That was thrilling. And David Luiz benched for 50 points. So that was the start of the end, basically. Pretty much since then, my main problem's just been captains. My team's been okay. I posted on Twitter before, in the last 5 weeks, I've basically hit 2 points nearly every single week. I think Hazard's clean sheet point last week was my best captain return in 6 weeks, I think. So that's been my main problem. I was actually funny story. Actually, I was in Australia and I was in Perth in the casino, and I had Sané as captain while Man City were playing Southampton. And obviously, he didn't start that game, so I was like, for God's sake, just keeps getting so bad. And I was praying that he wouldn't come on. Obviously, he came on for 6 minutes, so you know that bit. But at that moment, that he actually came on, I put £5 on one number on roulette in the casino, and it came in for £180. I was so happy. Looked up at the screen, and I saw Sané on the left wing. I was like, no.
Sané can't even give you that one moment.
No,
you could have traded your £180 winnings for.
I would have done it right there. I tell you, because honestly, it was unbelievable. I won the money, and I look up on the screen, and I see him on the left wing. I'm like, no, my heart just sank instantly. But anyway, my vice captain was Martial, so I think he got an assist, right? So it would have been a little bit better, but not much. Down from, I think it was around 38k to about 200 and something k I am now over the period of 5 or 6 weeks. It's been awful.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these cases because there's so many. I mean, we're going to talk later about the premium options out there. And there's so many of them. There's so many doing well, and you own them. You and Az own these players like Hazard that are good, good options, and particularly this week, a good captaincy option, you would think. But it's just one of those things where only a couple of them really actually did it consistently, and it was Salah really was the one over Christmas, and Kane to a slightly lesser extent, and Hazard was just, he had that one good game against Watford, and then the rest of it was very disappointing. But I guess that's him really. That's him. People are saying it, but we'll talk more about Hazard a bit later. But I think what we're going to do first of all, we're going to have a look at our community questions, and as usual, we kind of frame them around player or players, team or teams, and a kind of a key talking point. And the players that we're going to look at now are those who are moving around in the transfer window, so either new to the Premier League or new to a particular club as well. And for me, one of the best moves is Jason Punchin moving to Huddersfield, so suddenly he's an option again. What questions have we got about the transfer window recruits?
Well, I feel like I've drawn the short straw a little bit with these two questions because there hasn't exactly been many moves that have set the world alight yet. But Yog Saul have asked who are the new options during the January transfer window. Nasri at West Ham, I think he's 5.5. Bournemouth's new recruit, so that's Nathaniel Klein and Solanke. And Shirtless and FPL Jacket Potato asked about your man, Joe, Jason Punchin. Yes. Is he worth getting in as a fifth midfielder? More like a first midfielder.
More like a sixth midfielder.
I was going to say six, yeah.
What is he, 4.2, 4.3?
Yeah.
4.2. I mean, that is crazy cheap. And you've got to think he's not going to be making a move to sit on the bench again. I mean, when you think about the new recruits, though, that is kind of it. There isn't exactly a huge amount to go through. I mean, for me personally, I think Solanke is an interesting one there. I know that the Tammy Abraham deal to Wolves now looks like it's off, which is good for Jimenez owners. But you've got to think that Solanke move is going to eat into Wilson's game time a bit.
Well, it could mean that Wilson's going.
Or even mean that Wilson's off. So that could potentially be quite a big shift because Wilson's very highly owned, and Solanke at 4.7 would give you a good route into that attack. So I don't know if you guys have got your eyes on anyone else. David, any interest in Nasri?
No. I mean, the thing is, I mean, I guess I'll probably watch it. Watch him because his price is nice. But the thing is like with West Ham, for me, it's Arnautovic or Anderson, and I've really got to see Nasri take on that role with West Ham before I'll go anywhere near him. Really, we're not. I mean, I'm looking at maybe getting Fraser back. He obviously isn't 5.5 anymore, but he's still in that kind of bracket. I prefer him to someone who I don't even really like Nasri that much as a player anyway. So
what as a player?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
He's a horrible person. He's a great player.
I don't know. There's just something about him that just doesn't sit right with me. And maybe that's what you're talking about. That's maybe more what's fueling my thoughts on Nasri. The Bournemouth ones, I think they're probably the ones that take my fancy the most. I mean, Klein's quite an interesting one because he's quite cheap and he has the ability to be quite attacking, but it's Bournemouth's defence. So, if they were to ever, in some alternative universe, show like this ability to actually keep clean sheets on a semi-regular basis and had nice fixtures, then maybe. But again, Klein's really got to go and make that position his own. I mean, obviously, it'd be quite easy to do at the moment because there's a lot of injuries, but and it's a long time since he really was starting games regularly and playing as and showing that he had attacking threat about him.
See, I was quite surprised when I saw Klein's price, because to me he's a 5 million defender. 5.5 if he's in the team for Liverpool. I thought his price would be probably about 5 this season, but he came in at 4.5 and he's down to 4.4 now, which is good. I mean, it's Bournemouth defenders have never, apart from Charlie Daniels when he was taking penalties, was good. But I do think 4.5 is quite an intriguing price for him.
Yeah, I mean that's the key. I think the price is what attracts me to him rather than anything about him or the team, because because there's absolutely no chance that Bournemouth are going to turn into Liverpool defensively overnight. It's not going to happen. I can barely even see them turn into like a Burnley or a Huddersfield, But with that price, if there's ever a game where they're playing someone like a Newcastle or a Huddersfield or a team that we know can't score, and you've got him, then you start him, and then the next week, because of that price, you can just bench him. So maybe, but I'm not in any rush to get him. He might be a consideration for my wild card later in the season.
Yeah, I think that's that. I agree with that.
And I think most of the people who've moved so far in that bracket of maybe in 2 months' time when I'm looking at my wild card.
Yeah.
That's where I sit.
Yeah. So, Joe, you're clearly getting Jason punching him, right?
I'm all over Jason punching. As soon as I saw that move, I thought, yeah, I love that. I might not, but I am interested in him. I think he's a good price. He's 4.2. I've got Højbjerg, who's currently suspended for a little while. If I need to free up some money, I am tempted by that move because he will play, and I pretty much will never play him because he'll be on my bench. But nevertheless, he could come in handy, especially when we got blank game weeks coming up. Now, for those who are veteran Scoutcast viewers, remember a couple of seasons ago I got Jason Puncheon as part of a ill-fated wildcard. Well, I believed that Jason Puncheon would be good enough as a fourth midfielder I could play every week. He wasn't. I thought in my head he was sort of like this season I did the same with Fraser, and that actually worked out really well. I did think he'd be good enough as a cheap price for fourth midfielder, but Jason Puncheon clearly wasn't, and he still isn't. So I would not be getting him up in some kind of double pivot in the midfield or fourth midfielder, anything like that. He would be. I think he is a great fifth midfielder for those that are looking to go for three. We'll talk about structure and formation later, but for those, even those who are wildcarding now, those who are looking to get that kind of three strikers up front and looking for that cheap fifth mid, I think he has to be the best really at the moment because he's going to play, and so he could come on and get you 2 points, and he could get you the odd goal and assist. Obviously with Bournemouth not interested, Klein no. Over the last 4 game weeks, Bournemouth backline has shipped a record 12 goals. That is just not the kind of defence I want to buy into, and Klein hasn't been brought in particularly to be like a Virgil van Dijk and shore them up. Yeah. He's been brought in for his attacking. Solanke not. What interests me though about Solanke is why is he there? So why has he been brought in for 18 million? So they got rid of Defoe, who was on the bench and wasn't playing. So has he been brought in to replace that? No, I think he's been brought in because I think there may be some truth in Wilson being off, rumours. Because another transfer rumour that's going around is Morata to Seville. And if that comes off... Yeah. Yeah.
They rejected it. Did they reject a bid, or there was rumours they rejected a bid?
That's going to rumble on. And clearly Morata is not in favour. Clearly they need another striker. They've got a ready-made Premier League asset there in Wilson. So I don't know. It's a situation. It's a situation to monitor. But I think Solanke's been brought in to go up top with Josh King. I think with Wilson
potentially, but we've seen this before with Bournemouth. They like to buy the young, like Jordan Ibe springs to mind.
Tyrone Mings as well.
Why are they wasting? I mean, I say wasting money because Bournemouth have done great business. Obviously, Fraser, Brooks. I mean, these are fantastic buys they've got for not much money. Josh King.
They've got a type. They go for sort of young British players and hope that they blow up, basically.
And most of them, to be honest, do really well. And they've also got Nathan Ake was a great purchase for them as well. Solanke fits that bill really. But he's going from one bench. Would he go from one bench to another? So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to see that happening. I think you pay 19 million for a guy. And then you have to look at it from his perspective as well. I mean, he's at Liverpool. Yeah, fine. There's lots of people ahead of him, but Origi and Sturridge, a lot to prove. Something has had to really pull him away from a team that could win the league this year, in terms of like somewhere that he wants to stay for a long period of time. And it's got to be first team football. That has to have been the draw for Solanke to go. That surely means that something is rumbling.
Why would you leave? I mean, with Liverpool, say he's going to be on the bench for virtually every game, but he's going to get the odd run out. He's going to get the odd run out for the champions, potentially the champions this season. So he's going to get his medal, and he's going to have played a very small part, but nevertheless a part in a champion. He'll have that on his CV forever. Or he goes to Bournemouth to sit on the bench to replace Jermaine Defoe on the bench. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't compute.
I mean, he's played no minutes this season.
Unless he's got like Wayne Bridge, levels of ambition, as in none. Then I can see why he's made that move. He wants to just earn money to sit on a bench.
Yeah, I think it's just
Coast.
When you're that young, you want to play football, and he's never going to be Liverpool's level. It doesn't seem, certainly not at the moment anyway. So I think there's not much more in it than that.
I think it's I just think it's a situation to monitor. So out of all of the different transfers that have happened so far, apart from some cheapies like Jason Puncheon, by the way, Colin Quainer has now gone on loan to Ipswich, so we're denied for fans of really cheap non-playing strikers. Quainer no longer an option, so he needs to be replaced if you still.
Somewhere Neil is crying into his beer.
He is. Neil famously made the most boring transfer ever when he got Quainer out for Kamara. He didn't almost do it live on air, but yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I'm paying close attention to the Wilson Morata situation.
Yeah, I mean, Luke, is there any other players you want to add to that, or should we?
The only thing I'll say about the Puncheon thing is he hasn't played a lot of football for a long time, and he's 32 years old. So yeah, he might play, but how long he'll last, I'm not sure about that. Ideally, you do want your fifth person to be playing. If it was on a wild card, I wouldn't think twice about it because obviously it's a great money save. But when you look at Camarasa, who's just 4.6, he's the perfect fifth mid as far as I can tell. Penalties, assists, bonus points when Cardiff do score, which granted is rare, but I mean he's only a tiny little bit more expensive. So he for me was still the best fifth midfielder by a long way. But Puncheon I would consider on a wild card, but only if I needed the money. That's it really. The rest of the options I think is a wait and see.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, well let's move on then. We're not happy with the transfer activity so far.
Must do better.
Must do better. We're going to look at teams now, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at those with the best fixtures over January and February. So for amongst the premium sides, that's the likes of Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal to a lesser extent, and Manchester United as well. And for some of the cheapies, it's like Cardiff, Southampton, Watford, and Palace are amongst those teams there. So we've got a few questions on that, haven't we, Luke?
Yeah, that's all right. I think you're sticking up the fixtures on the screen.
Yeah,
is that right,
all up
Joe?
on the screen now.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, they're quite different, the questions this time. So we'll do it a little bit differently, just so we can make sure we sort of get an answer to each of those questions. So first we've got Jeans, who says, are Southampton's Nathan Redmond and Burnley's Ashley Barnes viable assets to bring in? So both have got form and fixtures on their side. So if I go to you, Joe, with that one, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, taking those two teams, so just as a reminder for those listening, when we do the podcast version of this, Southampton's next fixtures are Leicester, Everton, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Cardiff. These are fantastic fixtures. I just want to mention Watford as well, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Tottenham, that's tough, but then Brighton, Everton and Cardiff, so great fixtures as well. And Burnley as well need to be mentioned as well, because although they have Manchester United and Tottenham in their next six, they also have Fulham, Watford, Southampton and Brighton, so lots of really good fixtures there. So what I'm looking at really is, I do like a lot of these types of players. I think these are good. I think it's important in my squad, I've kind of always got a kind of role for that player. So at the moment I've sort of got Anderson and I've had Ings as well. So I've got one or two slots that can these types of players can go in. But I had a little look, and I had a look at the last four game weeks, and I was looking at these cheaper players from about 7 to 7.5 million and below. And in terms of threat over the last four amongst teams with good fixtures coming up, like Rashford is the best. I think we know that, 7.3, and he's got 18 shots, and that's level with Mitrovic, who I've just discounted because Fulham are awful. But next up is Ashley Barnes with 14. I think Ashley Barnes is a great option. because Burnley have the fixtures. He's a staple of that team. He's got the form as well, and I've also got the psychology behind it. I got him in around this time last year, and he went on another scoring run then, and was a fantastic kind of cheap asset for me. Watford players also appeal a lot. People can see on the screen there fixtures: Pereira, Deeney, and Decore. All well priced, I think, given their fixtures and forms. And also, Milivojevic, I want to mention as well. Although he is more expensive than he was last season, he does keep getting penalties. And Crystal Palace have the fixtures to earn penalties. So 2 goals the last 4. Final mention, Redmond. He does not appeal to me one jot. He's a perennial on my goals imminent table. He's always imminent. He's getting some returns at the moment. But when I looked at the last 4, so if, say, Rashford's getting 18 goal attempts, Barnes is getting 14, Redmond, although he's had 3 starts, not 4, he's had just 7 shots, created 3 chances, and he's had 3 shots in the box compared to, say, Rashford's 13 or Richarlison's 10. So for that little bit more, you're getting a lot more of a player. And Redmond historically has not been a good asset to own. So I'm going nowhere near Redmond. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to drop in on Redmond. We got an article on him tomorrow to kind of go into a little bit more detail if anyone's considering him. And the other thing about Barnes, just worth adding, is I've got Ings red flagged right now because he's probably out for 2 weeks, and I think they're the same price right now. So actually,
no, Barnes is 0.1 more. I can't do the switch.
Oh, you can't do the switch. Okay. Well, anyone who's got a bit of money in the bank, I've got 0.2. I can do it. So there will be people out there who it could be a good time to switch because the fixtures are quite nice for Burnley. So it's a nice timely notice of the fact that Barnes is in good form.
I'm going to be speaking about Barnes a little bit later as well. So yes, I'm very keen on him.
Love it. Some Burnley strikers. Yeah. Wow, you guys are going rogue.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing so badly, Luke.
Well, I'm going to ignore them, so they're probably going to fire now. You know what it's like. Same. Although Burnley do look like they're in a little bit of a resurgence, coincided with Joe Hart getting dropped. I think maybe that's just coincidence.
What a surprise.
Yeah. The only thing I'll mention to add there, Josie, with Southampton's fixtures, the new keeper that's come in. Do we think he's going to keep his place?
I don't think he will, because the manager specifically said he wanted him to play against Chelsea and I think it was Derby in the whichever team they played in the FA Cup. He wanted him to play those 2 games. It's something around him being an offensive goalkeeper, and he felt that he was suitable for those teams. He's mixing it up a bit. I don't know whether he's done enough. I mean, he looks to have done enough to keep his place, but there's talk that Forster might be coming back from the cold.
Oh, wow.
And it looks like McCarthy maybe is being dropped. So I don't think it's that clear cut. We'll know in a week or 2.
It's a nightmare. Like for fantasy managers, you want something that's like clear cut every week. And if this is a manager who's prepared to even tinker what goal he's playing, I mean, that's just wow.
And it's not like at Burnley where like Sean Dyche has got 3 current or ex-England international goalkeepers on his books, and he's swapping one for the other. So he get Hart in place with Heaton. Heaton's possibly only there till Pope gets up to speed. But you're looking there, I mean, it's a tough call. Who's going to be playing a goal for Burnley?
It's an absolute minefield between 6 goalkeepers there, and that's the thing with Fabianski sort of never being able to keep a clean sheet. There is a little opening there potentially for one of them with the good fixtures, but we just don't know who to pick, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, moving on. It's another question from Jeans actually. So I'll answer this, I guess, because it's Man United. So he's basically said, is it time for the forgotten premium picks like Sanchez and Lukaku? I'm just going to outright say no straight away. Potentially in the future, that's kind of sitting on the fence a little bit. But Lukaku and Sanchez just haven't done it the whole season. Obviously, Solskjaer's come in now, and they look a lot better. Lukaku has got a history of being pretty good against the weaker sides, which, as we can see from the fixtures there, they have got a tidy little run in the middle: Brighton, Burnley, Leicester, Fulham. So if Lukaku's playing, I would say but it just seems a bit out there when Kane, Aubameyang, Aguero all look viable options as well at the moment.
And Rashford as well.
And of course Rashford, that's the big issue. He's playing so well. I can't see him being shifted out to the right to accommodate Lukaku. But so that's that really. I mean, Sanchez potentially could play right wing, but he's just too expensive. That's my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think.
You've got gambles, and then you've got expensive gambles. And in a time where all the premium defenders are actually premium, forwards and midfielders are actually delivering week in, week out. Adding in a load of expensive players who we don't even know if they're going to be in the team just seems, I mean, logic. You could get lucky and end up with a massive haul from Lukaku over the next few weeks, but logically, it doesn't seem a good move to me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone's got any different opinions, so we'll move on from that, and we'll go with I think it's Awesome without an E. And he says, "Is it time for Spurs differentials in midfield?" So Eriksen, Ali, and even Lucas Moura. I never thought Eriksen and Ali would be differentials, but there we go.
No.
Should we be looking at them? Because obviously Son's off to the Asia Cup. So Spurs have been in great form, scoring goals all over. I think they've won tonight as well. So aside from Kane, are you looking at any midfielders? So we'll go to you, David. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm considering them. They're on my radar. Obviously, what Son has done has been quite devastating. Whether or not Eriksen, Ali, Moura, and Lamelo, who obviously I think has played tonight as well, can replicate that in terms of FPL form, I think is unlikely. They've always been Eriksen's a kind of steady Eddie, like he will just keep ticking over, making Joe breakfast, all that kind of thing. So if I'm going with him, he doesn't really feel like something that Son's been able to do. And obviously he's a different type of player as well. I'm still not completely convinced he's on all the set pieces with Trippier in the team. I think he'll have some, but just not all of them. There was even a point when Trippier was taking the set pieces short to Eriksen. So even the stats were kind of like you had to kind of wade through and discover that actually, he's just not completely necessarily always involved. Ali's one of those players where I think you kind of have to catch him at the right time. So maybe this could be it, because maybe I think he's the most likely to be able to do what Son's done, but I can't really base it on anything data-wise at this point, because really none of the options mentioned there have got underlying statistics that suggest they're shooting a lot or passing a lot, in key areas. But obviously I'm looking at them mainly because Kane is kind of, I'm in an iron about Kane, because when you compare him with Aubameyang, individually, Aubameyang does actually look the better option and is cheaper. So we'll have to see, really. If they can get up ahead of steam, because obviously we're looking at this because of the fixtures. The fixtures are very nice, but again, the price point is the tricky thing as well. So I mean, Ali, Eriksen, they're all they're more expensive than Pogba, for example. I want to hold on to Richarlison, who's got a good run of fixtures as well. So it's a tough. They're really just above what I'd want and aren't really offering enough to make me kind of snatch at them. So they're on my radar, but I'm not they're not big transfer targets for me yet.
They feel a little bit like I don't know, kind of just covering Spurs. Like you're just trying to cover potential hauls from Spurs by just bringing in kind of some of their players. I mean, I had a look at a lot of people have got Sané, who's around the same price as Eriksen. I had a look at them compared over the last 4 weeks. I mean, Sané just absolutely obliterates Eriksen. Really, 20 more penalty area touches, much higher expected goals, more goal attempts, same amount of chances created, which you probably wouldn't necessarily think Eriksen creates loads of chances. And Kane just seems to be. I don't know if there's any news on his injury. I think he played on, didn't he? So I think he's all right from tonight. But I mean, Kane just seems to be now delivering, quite steady returns. And if you're looking at, you're unlikely to want to double up, I think, with Eriksen and Kane. Yeah. Or Ali and Kane, you're going to want to take a bit of a risk and hope Eriksen can kind of match Kane, and do that. I'm just not really convinced on that at all. I mean, ownership-wise, Eriksen's at like 6%, Ali's at like 3% ownership.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that, they've got great fixtures. They're top of that chart right there. So if there's ever a time to look for a bit of a differential, a good team scoring goals with differentials for these great fixtures, then go for it. And I think if I was on wildcard, I would consider trying to get Ali or Eriksen in just for a go at it. I don't think it's one to do if you're in the top 10k or if you're down below. Yeah. All right, show off. Keep it quiet.
But no, it's more just like it's not the safe move, is it? So, and that's the idea. I think if you're trying to make up ground, then maybe it's worth looking at.
Exactly, and I think if you're in the lower ends of your mini league, it might be a time to try and steal a march on someone, because there's always a chance to get fired, because they're great players. Eriksen's a fantastic player, so I guess you never know.
I think it's the problem we've kind of got, Luke, is that when we bring in a player like Eriksen, the stats are against us. The fixtures might be with us, but there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Whereas I think in previous years, I've always had quite a good. Well, we both have. I think we both played a game where we're quite good at spotting the players who have got kind of good underlying stats and good fixtures and things. And I'm looking around and I'm really struggling to see outside of my team who's going to do really well over the next.
I guess when
the
you
next
compared
few
him to
weeks.
Sané, that's probably could be a good move in a little while. Because again, if you look at those fixtures, City end up playing Arsenal, Chelsea, and Everton in the latter end of it.
And Mendy should be
looks
back.
like he's on his way back. So
2 to 3 weeks, I think Guardiola said something like that.
Yeah. So if that times nicely, it could be that Eriksen's done well over the last few games, and then we get him in for Newcastle, Leicester, Burnley. When City just start playing Arsenal, Chelsea, Everton. So potentially one.
I think Eriksen and Ali I quite like their price because it's too high in a way, because they're a nice price point where you can get them, and after say you get them in for the Fulham game and you've got Fulham, Watford, and they've done nothing, so you're starting to get itchy fingers there. So then Newcastle, they do nothing, well then move them on. So the next match you can move them on because there's so much choice in that area. So you might not have Pogba, for example. It's these types of players you might want to get, even though Man City have tough fixtures, you may want to go down that route as well. There may be some emerging players come in through the transfer window as well. So I quite like them because they give options as well. And you can also downgrade as well and maybe upgrade a striker in 2 moves.
They're nice on the way out, but I just think on the way in, that's what bothers me, is to actually getting them there in the first place. What do you sacrifice by playing that extra 1.5 million instead of?
I think Luke raised a good point about Sane, because Sane, for me, I've got him. I'm really, really happy to have him at the moment. I was happy against Liverpool. I'm also happy to have him against Wolves, Huddersfield, and Newcastle, particularly those away games. And then it starts Arsenal. Well, Arsenal's defence can't form. I'm also happy from there. And then the Chelsea game comes along, and that coincides with roughly when Mendy's likely to be back. And it also coincides when we start to think about blank game weeks and double game weeks as well. These start to occur as well. We start to think about game week 31 when a number of teams will be missing. Liverpool won't be one of them. So maybe I'll be starting to think, well, hang on a minute, is Firmino a good option as well then? Maybe I need to invest a bit more up front.
Hey, get off my bit.
But yeah, I mean, I won't go into detail about Firmino, but that's just an example of the kind of options. And then also perhaps move on to Eriksen and Ali. So maybe I'm looking at Eriksen and Ali as perhaps one of them to bring in for Sane in game week 26 or 25, for example.
Worth saying though, you mentioned the blank game weeks there. I think game week 27 that coincides with the League Cup final. Yeah. And I think we can all assume that Man City are going to beat Burton Albion, so therefore would be blank that week.
Exactly. So Sane's got no. Yeah. So
Sane's not going to play.
So Sane's
but at the same time,
Chelsea and then nothing.
Spurs. It could basically. Spurs obviously won the first leg. I'm not saying they're going to win the second one, but it's advantage Spurs in that tie. So actually, game week 27, Spurs and Man City, they might both have a blank game week. I don't know if that's true.
That's true, yeah. So obviously I won't be looking to get Eriksen and Ali back if they're missing a game. But then other players. So maybe I want to think about upgrading to Hazard. I don't know, but that's it. There's so many options, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. But yeah, sorry, you were going to talk about Firmino as.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I was doing I was looking at Eriksen and Ali as potential players to bring into my team, and I was just very underwhelmed with what I saw in terms of stats. Ali as well, minutes wise, he's just not playing as many minutes as you'd like. I don't know if he's still got some injuries or if he's being managed, or whether it's just because Son and Moura and everyone are all playing well as well. So I'm not too keen on the Tottenham boys. I mean, I started off the season quite well, and one of the reasons why I started the season off well was because I doubled up on the Liverpool attack. So I had Mane and Salah at the start. You don't really see that. You're not really seeing that so much in our kind of circles of the kind of FPL hardcore players. There doesn't tend to be that many Liverpool attack double ups, which is surprising when you think about the points they're getting and the goals they're scoring. And actually, Mane and Firmino both have close to 20% ownership. So when they do deliver, it is pretty damaging to ranks. But when you compare their stats, I mean, Salah blows both Mane and Firmino out of the water in terms of penalty area touches, which I always like to use as a metric of how kind of threatening they're looking. But across all the other stats, they're actually quite similar. If you take away the penalties from Salah over the last 4, you've got Mane with similar goal attempts, similar expected goals. Firmino actually has nearly double the expected goals of Salah. and he got the hat trick against Arsenal, which obviously increases that. But both Mane and Firmino are also shooting more. So in terms of shots and over 90 minutes, they're both shooting more than Salah, which is surprising because I kind of see Salah as this kind of machine who's just always kind of shooting, always trying to, score whenever he can. But actually, if you take out the penalties he scored, he's actually not been delivering that massive holes, and that was one of the reasons why I took him out in the first place. It just hasn't worked out. So I think actually Firmino to me is maybe one of the best differential options you can go for. He's really involved. He's so important to the team. The interesting thing is that Salah's kind of playing further forward now and Firmino's dropping back, but it hasn't really seemed to affect Firmino's output in terms of the shots he's having. So yeah, I'm thinking a Firmino and Salah double up might be how I go. It's just who do I lose out of, because he's still 9 million. He's not cheap. So I'd still have to lose someone like Kane or Hazard or someone to get him in. But the fixtures are good and the stats are good. So he's someone I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Firmino often has been the differential king. He's the one for people who want to climb up the rankings, because often, the last season, people have got Salah, so they're not looking to double up. And so they ignore that. And, and we've seen in the past, when you double up on Liverpool attack, as you did earlier this season, and famously many did with Sturridge and Suarez a while ago, and people were still reluctant to do that at the time. And I agree. I don't know what it is, whether it's a bit of women's intuition, but I think Firmino's going to do well against Brighton in particular. And I think Salah could blank even. But it just looks like a Firmino type game. Just a really cheeky goal will win it, that type of thing. Yeah, I agree. Luke, did you have any further thoughts on any of these kind of differentials from teams with good fixtures?
No, I think it's pretty much been covered. I mean, I'm just so glad to see the back of Son. He's destroyed me over the last few weeks. He's like one of my favourite players to watch as well. So I'm just absolutely gutted at myself for not getting him in, but it just didn't work out. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think we've covered most of the options there. I'm just glad to hear you guys talking about Firmino as well. I remember you lot telling me he's definitely not an option at the beginning of the season. Well, to be honest, you're probably right, but now he's turning into one.
Yeah, he is. And once again, I don't know whether it's my own history with him, my psychology. When I've got rid of him, he's punished me. And when I've got him in, he's seen me climb spectacularly up the rankings, particularly last season. So, I don't know. I
can't believe Az is getting him. He told me he definitely never wouldn't get him, and he's never going to be an option. So I can't wait to see him in your team.
I know. I do regret that bit now.
well, let's move on to more well-owned, popular premium players, really, because this is also to do with team structure as well. So how many do you get in, and where do you get them? So just put up on the screen now some stats. These are the last 4 game weeks. And I'll just describe them for those listening to the podcast version. Top of the pile there, last 4 game weeks, it's Kane with 17 attempts, and Aubameyang next with 14 shots, Hazard with 12, Aguero 11, Salah with 9. And I put Sane and Sterling in as well, 8 and 3. I didn't put Firmino in because this is more about the kind of very well-owned popular ones and which ones we juggle around or ignore. So what that shows there in terms of creativity as well, Hazard and Sterling are real standouts there, and Salah's doing pretty well there as well. So all of them on their day can get big hauls. So David, we have some questions about this issue.
Yeah, I think this has been the big thing that most people have been asking over the last couple of game weeks. I think the big one that kind of everyone's been asking, we don't quite have one just in the questions that we've got, but it kind of guides the whole thing, is I need Salah back. Who goes, Kane or Aubameyang? That's been the question that people have asked me the most anyway. In terms of what we've got that's come in, we've got Kunkarami who said, what's the team structure strategy moving forward? If we consider captaining Salah for most of the next 5 game weeks, do we really need 2 to 3 more heavy hitters around that, or should we build a more balanced team around him full of cheaper players? And he cites Sané, Eriksen, Arnautovic, Jimenez, Richarlison, Firmino as some of the options there, basically people under 10 million. And Num has asked a very similar question on that as well. Speedy Boys has said, for those wanting to get Salah in, which heavy hitter makes way? And French Holidays said many neglected Man City over Christmas with mixed results. Is it time to get them back in? And if so, which of their premium assets is best? And then GS456 said, Hazard, is he worth keeping, given that he seems unreliable captaincy pick, and Chelsea don't look as good as Liverpool, Man City going forward? So there's so many questions on all these different individuals: Kane, Aubameyang, Hazard, Aguero, Salah, Sané, Sterling. It kind of feels like we probably need 3 of those, but where do we turn? What are the best 3 to have? So let's start with you, Az. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of the impossible question, isn't it? Because every week different premium players perform and other premium players blank, and the whole kind of thing changes. I mean, I made a decision over Christmas to kind of stick with 3 and not kind of chop and change so much, and it just didn't work because I should have gone for Salah. And yeah, Sterling hasn't really been delivering, and I'm really surprised to see Sterling so low down that list. I remember saying before Christmas that I thought he'd be the highest scoring player in FPL this season. It hasn't been a particularly good Christmas for him. He hasn't scored, that many points, and I think a lot of owners are going to be getting twitchy with him. I sold him for Salah last week, kind of regretting it a bit, but I think Salah just has to be a must. I think priority-wise, I think City and Liverpool have to be the kind of the favourites, the people to go for. City, you have the slight issue of the rotation and just not really knowing who to go for and who's going to play, which I think makes Aguero quite an attractive option in that, because he seems to have really beaten the opposition of Jesus and seems to be kind of Pep's favourite, leading the line. So I do like Aguero. Kane's been delivering without really impressing too much in the games I've seen him play. A couple of kind of quite scrappy goals, I think, quite lucky goals, but the stats there are good, look good for him, and I'd be reluctant to sell him with the fixtures that Tottenham have got going forward. And then you've got Hazard, who he's just a nightmare really to own, because you can just never predict when he's gonna score. And I mean, it happens every year. I mean, you're looking at you've got this fixture at home to Newcastle. He's had Southampton and then Newcastle, probably blanking both of these. Then he's away at Arsenal. Loads of people will sell him, and he'll get a hat trick. I think it's happened. It happens every year. People sell him at the wrong times. People buy him at the wrong times. He is, he's tricky. He's one of those players who I think you either just keep for the season and just accept that you're going to have kind of roughs and lows with him, or you just don't even enter into that and you just get in a kind of a more consistent player. And I think one of the problems I've had, particularly with captains, is I just haven't had a settled captain. And last year, when it was all going so well, I had Salah pretty much every week, and that was just that kind of decision taken out of my hands. And I just don't really trust any other heavy-hitting player other than Salah this year to go for. So I've got Hazard, Salah, and Kane at the moment, which means no City players at all in my team. And yeah, I find it a really hard question to answer, because Sterling just isn't delivering for his price at the moment, and he's being rotated a bit. And I worry about Sané with Mendy coming back and potential rotation there. So I think I'd like to get Aguero, but it's hard to know how to get him in. Does that help? I doubt it.
You're right. It really is an impossible question, because I think there's so many decent options, and even though, for example, Man City, have underwhelmed, it's Man City. So you always kind of worry. I mean, I guess let's come to you now, Luke, because obviously you went into Christmas with a triple up of Man City players. I'm guessing you don't really want to do that anymore.
No, that's long gone now. Perfectly timed by me. Just as they're scoring 3 goals every single game without fail, then just drop off a cliff as soon as I get 3 of them. I still really like Sané. He's the one I've held out of all of them. I still think he's good. Yeah, when Mendy comes back, I've got a decision, but I still think that before he's starting games, it's going to be maybe 4 weeks away at least. And he's the cheapest out of all those options. So I still think Sané is a good option to have, and that's the one I've kept. I'm actually going to get in Salah for the first time this season. I'm planning for a little while, so to get him in and just take my captaincy issues away, as I've been going on about. Yep. The reason why I did it this season and not had Salah is I wanted to have that option of picking my captain every week, and it was working really well for the first half of it, and mainly that was due to Sterling, I think, and Hazard, who I had early, who were both on fire, and they both just kind of dropped off. So now I kind of need that option again, and he's got good fixtures. The fact that he's playing pretty much up front every game as well, and he's a midfielder means he gets the extra points and stuff potentially. I just think he's really smart play to have him. Everyone's looking to get him. The fixtures are there. He's so highly owned. So yeah, Salah, Sana, I've got both of those. Hazard I've also got, and Aubameyang I've also got. So I've actually got 4 of them, and it's Kane the one that I haven't got. So again, I'm really happy with the structure that I've got, and I think for me it's one of Kane or Aubameyang, and then a cheaper striker with a 3-5-2 is my preferred structure, which I think was the original question that Kun Karan was asking. Just because I think there's so many good midfielders and there's so many differential potential players. That midfielders that are almost playing up front or on set pieces, playing. There's so many options there, whereas one of Kane, Aubameyang, and then a Jimenez or an Arnautovic just seems to be the structure that I want at the moment. And yeah, picking who out of Kane and Aubameyang is tricky, but I think they're largely matching each other, and Aubameyang's slightly cheaper. So yeah, I'm happy where I am at the moment, and that's what I'd advise. But I wouldn't advise anyone to sell Kane. If you're on him, you're on him, fair enough. But we've already talked about Eriksen potentially later on for Sané, so that would be my particular move that I'll do later down the line. Hazard's really frustrating, but you've already covered it as I just think I'm just going to leave him now. I can't deal with it if I get rid of him. I had him from very early, like game week 3, I think I got him in, had him all that time, and he started to do really badly, 4 or 5 games, was injured and stuff. Got rid of him, and then straight away starts scoring goals against Brighton. And then I get him straight back in, and he stops scoring again. So he's staying now, and he will return me points. So I'm leaving him there.
Whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. But don't follow me, guys, because you've seen what's happened over the last 5 weeks. I'll hand over to Dave, who's probably got a better idea of what to do.
Well, I mean, the way a lot of the points you've made, I largely agree with. And I think especially the point you made about Kane and Aubameyang is I'm glad I don't have both and not Salah, because I think that's the biggest issue that people seem to have, is if they have both of those and it's who do you sell. Because, Joe made a good point a few weeks ago that when you are making a decision about who to get rid of, you're not just looking at who you're bringing in, you've got to look at who you're getting rid of as well. And the way that, Kane is stacking up statistically, the way that Aubameyang is stacking up statistically. I mean, Aubameyang is underperforming on his underlying statistics right now, according to expected data. So if you think he's doing well now, if he can just, tighten his game up, maybe get a few more of his shots on target, miss a few less sitters, then, he's going to be a great player to have over the next couple of game weeks. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. I already have Kane. But for me, I think the way that we did an article kind of comparing all of these options, and in the end, when I just came to the conclusion, I think the best way really is maybe to look at who you're going to be captaining effectively out of this crop of people. And I kind of came to this really kind of scary conclusion that over the next 6 game weeks, I'm probably not going to captain a Man City player at all, because you're going to have Salah for most of those weeks. But when you consider the other options, I mean, basically, you probably captain Salah for maybe 5 of the next 6. Hazard, you could captain for 5 of the next 6 because his fixtures are good enough, and theoretically his underlying statistics are looking nice. Kane, you'd probably captain for 4, Aubameyang for 3, and maybe even Pogba for 3 as well. So the whole matrix of who you could captain in those different game weeks is in the conclusion of that article, featured at the top of the site right now. And yeah, basically the first time that the Man City options really compete because of their fixtures. And of course, you look at that comparison of where they're all matching up against the others. Sané and Sterling are near the bottom. Aguero is a little bit, more expensive and kind of in the middle. You'd only really look at it really game week 7 when they're away at Everton. But as we've already discussed, it's probably going to be a blank for them anyway. So with that in mind, I'm kind of tempted to go Man City-less completely, I think. And I actually think comparing the 3 of them together, if I was wildcarding right now, I'd probably have Aubameyang, Hazard and Salah. They'd be the 3 I'd go for. So if I want to get to that myself, I'm actually considering doing Sané to Hazard. I've got 2 free transfers, so I can make the jump if I take someone out elsewhere. But that's from a statistical angle. From a kind of personal angle, the idea of selling a Man City player and buying in probably the most unreliable captain candidate of the last 2 or 3 years is really scary. So again, that's just there's another opinion on the subject that is really unsure of the results that I found from trying to research it.
Because
what I've been doing.
I'm kind of considering doing the opposite and actually selling Hazard for Sané.
But there we go. I mean, that just sums it up, doesn't it? There's so many good options that we're considering doing the hokey cokey with each other.
Because my thoughts are, if I'm not going to captain Hazard over the next 6, which I'm not, because I've got Kane and Salah, having 11 million assuming Sané and Hazard achieve similar points, which I think they probably will, you then save 1.5, on Salah, which would let me upgrade someone like Ings to Arnautovic or something like that. But yeah, the problem is
the thing with Chelsea is like with Hazard. I mean, obviously they're not scoring goals at the moment. They've completely dropped off a cliff in terms of the way they're scoring. But before that, they were doing really well, and it was a sudden change. Now that could happen again. I think there could be a sudden change and they can score. It happened the other way, just recently. And the thing with Hazard, he just needs one assist or a goal, and he just gets such a
that's the problem.
And that's why he's scary. And with Sané, exactly what happened to me against Southampton. He come on for 7 minutes or whatever it was at the end, and that's a worry. I think Hazard is more of a captain option than Sané for that very reason. At least
definitely.
Play. So,
definitely.
So yeah, it really does. If you're not going to captain Hazard, I could see moving away from him might be smart. But at the end of the day, I just think as soon as they start scoring again, Hazard is going to be involved, and he only needs to get 1 goal, 1 assist. He's bang up there with like a double-figure haul. So he is scary. I just wanted to quickly touch on that Kane and Aubameyang thing you were saying there, David, as well. I think it's quite sort of revealing. So Spurs have been firing in goals all over the place. Top form. They've had Son there, and Kane's done what he's done. Great. Aubameyang has largely matched him when Arsenal haven't been doing that great. They've basically got no creative midfielders. Like none of their first team midfielders are playing, and they haven't been scoring as many goals as Spurs. And he's still matched him. So to me, I still think there's more to come from Aubameyang. Like you said, as soon as they can sort out their team structure properly, maybe get Ozil back in firing. I don't know. I think that he has got the potential to really, really rifle in some goals, which he's been doing already. But I just think I don't think he's touched his potential yet. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, basically, just more of what I discovered from doing this, out of the forwards in that particular bracket, he has the highest expected goal involvement over the last 6 game weeks, and yet he was underperforming against that. So there's just so much more to come from him. And like I said, if I was wildcarding right now, I wouldn't have Kane. I'd go Aubameyang. But of course, in terms of what I'm going to do, because I've got Kane, I just can't move him on.
And this is in a period when Arsenal's like they haven't got a defender, they've barely got a midfielder, and he's still doing it. So you just think, if they get their team together, will it improve? It's odds or it probably won't, but it looks like it would.
Yeah, no, definitely right there. What do you think, Joe? A lot to to discuss.
Well, I'll tell you what doesn't work: just chasing points for the premium option that scored the previous week. And just keep doing it. I see this a lot on Twitter. Should I get so-and-so? Should I swap Kane out for Aubameyang? Should I get Aubameyang back for Kane? Should I get Hazard? And they're just going to swap every week. And I've done this before. And what happens is you end up missing all their points. But all of these players, all the players on the screen, all the players that we've mentioned, they will all get good scores at some point over the next 4 game weeks. Some of them will get good scores every game week. Some 3, some maybe 1. But the thing is, it's like you said, the point I made a while ago, David, you raised again. It's, for me, when I make a move, it's not so much the player I'm getting in, it's the player I'm getting out. Will that player punish me? Because that is the worst feeling. That is definitely... Getting a player in that doesn't perform is bad, but ditching a player... Like Andy, when he got rid of Salah and Son that week. Son got 21 points and Salah got, 24 points for those that captained him or something like that. And, that's a... You just don't want that, basically. So for me, I have Kane and Salah, and currently they're doing nothing to tell me that I should get rid of them. They've got the form and they've got the fixtures. But that's not to say that I don't think Aubameyang or Hazard, who are alternatives, are not great. They're good too. And if you have them, hold on to them, because if you get rid of them this week, they will probably score and punish you, and it will be very frustrating. Why swap Salah for Hazard? Why swap Hazard for Salah? Got those ones, keep them, have some faith in them, unless of course their underlying stats and their performance and their fixtures completely drop off a cliff, and then it's time to move on. But I'm not really seeing that with any of them, and especially as you've highlighted with Aubameyang. So this week I think Hazard and Aubameyang are probably the 2 on paper best premium options, but long term I don't think they are. So I'm looking at fixtures over the next 5, because that comes ahead of the League Cup final, I believe. So I think Liverpool, Spurs, Man United and Man City have the best fixtures before that. I think Liverpool have 5 good fixtures, Tottenham 4, Manchester United 4, Man City 4. So for me, Salah and Kane, I think, are the best premiums over that period. And luckily, Manchester United, I think, are good options as well. They haven't been mentioned yet, but I think they're great options. And luckily, we don't have to pay premium prices. I think Pogba and or Rashford are brilliant options. So I wouldn't be looking at Arsenal. I think they've got 3 good fixtures, but I think they've got 2 tough ones. And Chelsea the same, just the 3. And as I said, City have got 4. So I'd be looking, going forward in terms of structure, going back to that question, I'm looking at a very flexible structure. I think we've got bargains like Wan-Bissaka at the back as well. So I think we can play 3 or 2 up front. We can have a 4-man midfield. I think keep it flexible because we've got the cheap players that you can bring in and out around that. Palace have very strong fixtures as well. There's actually many games where I want to play Wan-Bissaka. So I don't want too many premiums in a way. So for me, I'm looking at Salah, Kane, a Man City option up until the League Cup final. So in my case, Sané, but if you've got Sterling, keep him. And possibly Rashford as well to go alongside with Kane. That's what I'd be looking at. Pogba, Salah, Sané, Sterling, one of those two, Kane and Rashford. So for me, no room for Aubameyang or Hazard. I know they're going to hurt me this week, but I think over the coming game weeks, I think all those other players I mentioned will do better.
Just shows how everyone's got completely different.
Yeah, we've all got different views on that.
Views.
That's got to be the most diverse set of answers we've ever had on this. Especially the main thing's got to be I'm thinking of doing Sané to Hazard, and you're thinking of doing the opposite as. That's summed up. But I actually think, Joe, that the point you've made, I think that's got to be the conclusion is pick your 3 right now. Maybe even do nothing if you think the 3 you've got can still do well, and just stick to your guns and just ride it out. I think over the next couple of game weeks, those players are all going to do well. And yeah, you're right. You're probably going to end up missing points if you try and follow the points. You'd be like a big merry-go-round.
I think considering all of them are good, that you've got to then look at the next scale. And I think for me that's fixtures. And I said I think for me Spurs, Liverpool, and City, the next 3 or 4, just got the best fixtures. I just think that swings it for them, and it swings it away from Hazard and Aubameyang. But owners enjoy their points this weekend because they will be plentiful.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Game Week 22 in a bit more detail? I think now, Az, this is over to you. You and FPL Fairy have been compiling, hopefully, how we fared over the festive fixtures with the differentials and clean sheets. And what we did is we picked one differential, one team for clean sheets over all 4 of those fixtures. So we'll find out how we did and who our latest picks are.
It's pretty grim reading, I'm afraid. We'll start with differentials. Andy was top of the pile. He went for Lingard, who delivered twice out of the 4 games over Christmas. Got 18 points in one of his games, which is the best that we've had. David, you had 14 once from Sigurdsson.
Ah, yes.
Joe, you had 14. Yeah. So 18. 18. Oh no, 18 is not the best because Neil had Sané once, which got 19. So, but still, 18 points, and then 5, and then 2, and then 1. I had Danny Ings. He scored in the first game, and then blanked 3 times. Excellent. David, you had Solly March, if you remember. He blanked 4 times.
Every single time.
And Joe, do you remember you had?
I had De Bruyne, I believe.
You had De Bruyne, yeah, who I think he scored or assisted, and then blanked, and then
scored that fluky goal against Palace, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah, that fluky one. So not great really. It means there's a bit of changes to the scores. Joe is actually Andy is at 50% correct, and then Joe, you're next with 41%, and then David, and then me. Luke, you weren't on over Christmas, were you? Oh no, you were away, weren't you?
Correct.
Yeah,
which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably.
Your score is NA.
You're David's bottom of the pile with 20%. You're somewhere in the middle with 38%. So, So Joe, you must be pretty happy. 41%, seven picks right out of 17. It's pretty decent.
Yeah. Do you want my latest one then for Game Week 22?
Yeah. Well, start us off. Okay. Absolutely.
Ashley Barnes, the Austrian maestro. By his grandmother, he is, I believe, eligible to play for Austria.
His grandma's eligible to play for Austria.
His grandma is eligible to play for Austria.
She's
just like Tony Cascarino's gran was eligible to play for England, but accidentally Ireland. So I like him a lot. He is owned by less than 1% of FPL managers. Great differential. Joint top with Aubameyang for big chances over the last 4. How about that? 14 shots.
What's that?
That's more than Hazard and Son. Get that, Son owners. Barnes better than Son, shocker. He's also got 2 goals and 1 assist. over that period. Yeah, he's just great. He's just great value. Low own, everything's right. Fixtures, form, everything. Love him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an easy switch for me if I had 0.1 in the bank, just doing Ings to Barnes. I probably would go for that. But alas, David, who are you going for?
Yeah, mine's not so exciting. I think you can call Ashley Barnes exciting. I find him really exciting. He's very famous for ruining clean sheets down the years. So very exciting player. I've gone for Alex Pritchard at Huddersfield, and this one is kind of more specific to who they're playing. Basically, they're playing Cardiff, who are very susceptible to set pieces. We've done another article today about where teams are more weak to attacking play than other areas, and basically Cardiff, they've just conceded so many chances from set pieces since the last time that we did it. We did it game week 12. So in 9 game weeks, they've more than doubled the amount of attempts they've conceded from set pieces and have shot right into the bottom 3 for that. And they, just look so weak from that. Pritchard is their set piece taker. And to be honest, Huddersfield, set piece is the only way they score goals at Huddersfield. They're so rubbish in open play that if they're going to win, they're going to have to get a set piece goal. So I'm just kind of hoping that Pritchard will be involved. Owned by 0.1%. So pretty much about as differential as you can get.
Yeah, it's a good one. Good one for the list. I'm going for Camarasa. Luke mentioned him earlier. I think he's the best 4.5-ish player there is. He's kind of the heartbeat of the Cardiff team, who actually surprised us all, I think, especially you, Joe. You were running out of analogies and metaphors to describe Cardiff, but they're not bottom of the league. And they, I think if you'd offered Warnock where their position in the table at the start of the season, he'd have taken it. And I think Camarasa has been really important to that. Got on set pieces, on the penalties, and he even scored some open play as well. So the fixtures are really good for him, and he's a player who I'm actually looking to bring in myself as a kind of rotating fifth midfielder. Because anyone is better than Isaac's success. So yeah, I'm gonna back Camarasa this week at home too.
I think he's got a flag at the moment on FPL, but
there is.
I'm not sure if that's a serious flag or one of those joke ones FPL put up.
I think I saw some Warnock comments after the match that said he's gonna be fine.
That's fine.
I think it's
so clearly a joke flag then for him.
Yeah.
I just can't believe he's under 5%. He's so I don't want to say well owned, but he's so well known about in the kind of inner circle of fantasy managers. And like you said, I agree. I think he's the best in that price bracket. I'm so surprised he's under 5%. That bodes well because he's on my radar as well.
Yeah, 2.8%. So really, really low. Luke?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Burnley theme, the little resurgence. To be honest, I really wanted to pick their goalkeeper, but I just don't know who that's going to be. Because as we've seen, there's 3 of them potentially you can play. And that's based on the fact that obviously Burnley at home, they look like they've started to play a little bit better. And then Fulham, they love, well, specifically Mitrovic loves a shot. So I expect the Burnley keeper to rack up a whole bunch of save attempts at least. And they always seem to do anyway in virtually any match. So yeah, if I knew who that was, I'd go for it. But I don't. So I'm going to go for Goodmanson, who's basically just Burnley's best player. Fulham have received the most spankings of every team, any team in the league. So let's hope that Goodmanson and Barnes can combine. And maybe his grandma.
Very nice. Okay, so clean sheets. This was also pretty miserable for most of us. I'm going to start. I picked City. They had a great run of fixtures. They conceded so many goals, lost matches to Palace, and it's just Leicester. To not for Man City not to have got 1 clean sheet out of those 4 games, it sums up my season, I think. I got no. So that I was really leading the pile in terms of these, and now I'm at 50-50. So 8 right, 8 wrong. So pretty annoyed with that. David, you had Chelsea. They did okay. They got you 2 clean sheets out of 4, so you must be fairly happy with that. Absolutely buzzing. Joe, you went for Spurs. 2 clean sheets in 4, so similar as well.
Happy.
Pretty happy. The good thing about that is that takes you to the top of the pile now, so you're at 10 correct clean sheets out of 17, so 59%, which is decent. And Andy went for United. They got 1 clean sheet. He is just useless with clean sheets. He's on 20% correct, 2 out of 10. So I wouldn't listen to him when he's next on. But yeah, we all went for pretty big teams there, and there was a surprisingly low number of clean sheets. I think it just shows the Christmas period and how few clean sheets there are around that. So something to bear in mind for next year. So who are we going for who are we going for this week? Let's start with Luke.
Yeah, luckily I get to pick first this week, so I'm going to go Chelsea, simply because they're at home to Newcastle. Newcastle really struggling. I just think Chelsea not able to score at the moment. So, but one thing the other doing is being pretty tight overall. So, this looks the obvious one. It's quite hard this week, I think, clean sheet wise. You look down. Well, generally you pick home teams when you look at clean sheets, and if you look down the list of home teams that are playing, there doesn't seem to be that many standout options. I'm not going for City because, like you, I've picked them so many times and they've always let me down. So. That's why I've gone for Chelsea.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got a second pick this week, and I'm going for Leicester. So it kind of shows, out of the big teams, there doesn't seem any that really stand out to me. They're at home to Southampton. Southampton haven't got Danny Ings. He's out for 2 weeks. I wonder where the goals are going to come from with Southampton. They do look improved under the new manager, but I still don't think they've really got that many goals in them. Redmond and Ings look kind of the standout picks, but I'm half tempted to hold on to Ings just for 2 weeks because I do like him. But I just think he's so important to Southampton. If they're going to stay up, they really need to get him fit. And it's a shame he keeps having all these little injury doubts. But I think Leicester probably win that 2-0 at home. Joe, you're next.
Yeah, let's keep the Burnley loving going. I'm going for Burnley.
Oh my God.
Burnley
Wow.
clean sheet at home to Fulham. Burnley, hang on to your hats. Whipping boys no more. Hang on to your whips even.
No.
They are not whipping boys anymore.
That's what made fantasy so easy this season was just picking playing against Burnley.
So they got rid of Joe Hart and over the last 2, and guess what? They've become amazing. So against
as if by magic,
West Ham and Huddersfield. So I had a look at look at their stats for the previous game weeks and then the last 2 to compare them, and the number of shots conceded per match has halved without Joe Hart. So they were conceding on average of 20 a match and now just 10. The number of close range efforts has dropped from 11.5 per match to 7, and big chances conceded is considerably down as well. Errors have gone. They were conceding 1 on average a game. They are now conceding none. So Heaton or Pope will be in goal. Possibly Heaton, and they'll get a clean sheet because they haven't got Joe Hart anymore.
And Joe Hart will be on next year's edition of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out.
Yes, that's the end of him.
Amazing. I mean, I never thought we'd be talking about Burnley this much on the Scoutcast. Joe, no, you've done yours. David?
So I actually picked last, and somehow Liverpool was still available. And I guess, we're kind of steering away from it a little bit because I'm not really sure if they've even got any fit centre-backs anymore, bearing in mind they played a 16-year-old in Fabinho at centre-back in the FA Cup. And it's Brighton as well. But, we kind of said that most of the options were kind of limited this week. So I figured if Liverpool are still free and, it's hardly a bad choice. If Van Dijk is over the sniffles, which we think he might have had, but we're not sure because Klopp hasn't really said too much. Lovren might be all right as well. We're not sure. I'm just kind of hoping that their defence is actually in a decent situation to go and keep a clean sheet at Brighton, because they could. It's Liverpool. They'd keep a clean sheet against anyone this season.
They thrashed us home and away last season. I can't see us doing much against them for the weekend. I don't know about you, Joe. You got any hope in that game?
I do actually.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have the hope they're going to win. Oh no, but I don't think it'll be a thrashing. I think they'll concede maybe 1, maybe 2. But I think they're I think Brighton are a tougher unit this year. Against the tough sides. So, yeah.
That's it. That is the differentials and clean sheets done.
Well, let's move on to our transfer and captaincy plans. So we'll go with Luke first. What are your plan moves? And, who are you going to captain?
Okay. Nobody do what I'm going to do because I can guarantee you I'll get 35 points again, despite my team looking pretty good to me on paper. I'm going to bring in Salah for the first time this season. So Felipe Anderson's going out and Salah's coming in. I've literally got, again, I look on my paper on the team. I've got double Chelsea at home to Newcastle. I've got double Everton at home to Bournemouth. I've got double Liverpool away to Brighton. I've got Aubameyang playing West Ham. I've got Wan-Bissaka at home to Watford. And then Martial's probably my only slightly ropey pick. I've got Sané home to Wolves. 30 points, here we come. I'm going to go for I'm going to go for Hazard captain, probably, but the fact that they played a strenuous game tonight is weighing on my mind. So I don't know. Hazard captain at the moment. Potentially, I'll just stick it on Salah and just get the job done early and just leave it on him.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably a wise move. It's kind of worked over Christmas. Just trust Salah. And even though I don't think Brighton are going to get hammered, I still think Salah's going to get points there. So moving on, Az, what are you doing and who are you going to captain?
I don't know. I don't know anymore, Joe. I mean, my top transfer target is Camarasa, which I think sums up my breakdown that I'm having this season. I mean, I've got a couple of issues. I've got Ings and Success that I want to move on. Luke Shaw is looking like a bit of a bad pick. I could potentially downgrade him. The trouble is I've got nothing in the bank. So I can't move Ings on easily without dropping someone else. I can't do like an Ings and Success switch because I've just got nothing to think. So I'm thinking if I do leave Ings for a week, I might as well leave him for 2 weeks because then I quite like him. So I could potentially just hold on to him. But I am thinking of doing Ings and Anderson to Arnautovic and Camarasa for a hit, because that means that I can play Camarasa over Shaw. And I like Camarasa with his fixtures going forward. He gives me a bit of extra kind of, I don't have to. I can rotate between 4 at the back and Camarasa. Gives me a bit more. Give me a few more options. And if Arnautovic is fit, it's Arnautovic. I really like him, and I think he is a better option than Anderson if they're both in the team and both fit. And he's a bit of a differential as well. So I might do that for a 4-point hit, or I might just do nothing.
Okay, fair enough.
Might just uninstall our team, right? And just
just start again.
I might just hand it over to someone else. I'm definitely captaining Salah.
Get Sam Allardyce in.
Yeah,
make sure
that's what I need. Yeah,
you need Sam
actually the Elite 64 league that FPL General runs, I'm in, and I'm currently in the relegation places.
Oh, you need Big Sam.
So Big Sam would be perfect to take me up the line. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that.
Okay.
But yeah,
signing Kevin Nolan next week.
Oh yes, can't wait.
So this is our second Salah captain. So David,
definitely Salah.
What are you up to? You've got 2 free transfers, I believe.
Yes, I do. There's so many things I could do. I to be honest, I mean, even though it's going fairly well, I do look at my team and I do think it's really far away from where I'd like it to be. Obviously, I upgraded in midfield, so I have my cheapest midfielder is Snodgrass at 5'4", and I really do want to get back to having a 4-5 there, or 4-6, or 4-4, or punching or something like that. But it's just when I do it, because I was looking at selling Snodgrass this week because he's done nothing for me. But in looking at that article about where teams are susceptible to the attacking player of the opposition, discovered that basically Arsenal are very weak down their left. Snodgrass is the right winger for West Ham, and I just don't trust Arsenal's defence. And if what happens to them is coming down that left side, especially with Kolasinac basically playing in the opposition box all the time, I do think maybe this is a week to hold Snodgrass. I've talked about I can do Sané to Hazard. That's going to take some more comparison between those 2 players for me, I think, and also just a very deep examination of my soul as to whether or not I really want to buy into Hazard again because of what he's like. Ings to Barnes, I could do with the money I've got in the bank. They're the moves I'm thinking of. It could be any of those really, but I am going to have to do something because I don't want to burn the transfer. But thankfully, I have some issues to solve. I had loads of times over Christmas where I didn't really, before Christmas, I didn't really want to use that second transfer, but I needed to, so I didn't waste it. And, just kind of did some stuff that was just highly unexciting. And, some people could say maybe I wasted it on some of the moves I made. So it's actually nice to have some issues, put it that way, So I know I'm going to be using at least one of my transfers.
And who are you captain?
And captain this week. Initially, when I set my bus team, as we call it, went straight out of the previous one, I actually went straight to Richarlison. And then the next day, I came to my senses and took it off Richarlison and put it on Salah. But it was just, it was that Bournemouth fixture, and I really don't rate Bournemouth's defence. And, Richarlison, while he's not getting too many shots on target, I just think that a home game against Bournemouth is a kind of game where he's going to do well. I'm not brave enough to captain him. I captained him once last season. I think Az did the exact same thing when it just absolutely added up to an absolute mauling. He was having shots left, right and centre. The team I think he was playing with Stoke, they conceded more shots than anyone else. He's thinking, right, there we go, hat-trick in the bag, 2 points.
Yep.
So
Never forget.
There's no way I'm ever going to captain Richarlison again, but I'm certainly going to hold him. Put it that way. So yeah, captain on Salah.
Okay, so yeah, I put my team up. I hate my team for this week. I don't mind it kind of for the next few weeks, but I'm very worried about this week. I don't have Hazard. I don't have Aubameyang. I don't have Richarlison. I think all of them are capable of double-digit hauls. I think in the case of Hazard and Aubameyang, a significant number will captain them. I could see myself falling about if Salah and Kane don't produce this week. I can see myself dropping about 40 points amongst some people. I mean, I'm quite pessimistic this week, perhaps overly pessimistic. I don't know. But what I'm looking at is I've got 2 free transfers as well. I'm going to stick with the premiums I've got. I'm going to stick, keep the faith with Salah and Kane. I could do Ings to Barnes, but that would mean benching Jimenez against Man City, who can't keep clean sheets, and Jimenez can't stop scoring against big teams. So Jimmy Nez is staying with me, and I don't think I'll do that move because I don't want to do that. I think this is a great week to play Wan-Bissaka as well, so I don't want to bench his points as well. So I'm going to do a really boring transfer. I think. Yeah, can you believe it? I'm going to use that transfer just to free up a tiny bit of money. And as we've discussed with Joe Hart, he is a player you do not want anywhere near your fantasy team, anywhere near your Lancashire team, anything. So the Crystal Palace man, Giatta, is 4.2. That will save me 0.3. I can just put that in the bank and then carry the 2 free transfers over for the following week and use them. I've got lots of options, more options that week. I like the look of Rashford that week, for example. I'm not sure I will keep Anderson. I might see how Richarlison does this week and maybe get Richarlison in as well. I don't know, there's more options, but I don't feel the way the fixtures are going this week. There's much more I want to do, really. The other thing I just wanted to mention about getting Giatta in, I did have a plan with Wan-Bissaka. I, like many people, have benched Wan-Bissaka's clean sheet points many times this season. It's getting annoying. Now, I had a plan around that. This is why I had Hennessy in originally. So my plan was, well, if I wanted to play a better defender than Wan-Bissaka, but still cover myself with a very well-owned Palace man, I would play Hennessy. And that was working well until Hennessy got himself injured and out of the team. And when his replacement came in, he got those clean sheets that I should have been getting from Hennessy, but didn't get. So this way I can do that again, and that gives me cover. Isn't this weird? What a weird season. I'm getting cover in for a 4.0 defender, or whatever he is now, but he was 4.0. So that's how good Wan-Bissaka is. He's so well owned.
He's 4.4 now.
4.4. I mean, it's so cheap. He plays, and he's in a team with good fixtures, and they're getting clean sheets as well, and sometimes in unexpected times as well. He's a great player. So I've got to cover him. So yeah, that's me. And I'm going to be captaining Salah because why not? I think he's a good option. I think he'll get points there. I also think Kane's going to be my vice. I think Kane's going to get points as well. Man United are not good with clean sheets, and Kane he's now scored in his last 10 league starts. He's also scored in his last 2 other domestic cup games as well. So he's gonna get me consistent points there. But
I'd be tempted by Alonso, with your team.
Yeah, I like. Now you see, I wouldn't do that because I'm not that kind of guy. But it's good for you to hear that as well, because like many Alonso owners, I've been really considering getting rid of him, and just as you consider getting rid of him, he comes in with some points. Yeah, and then you realise,
because you're never sure on the Sané start, and you said about you thought Brighton wouldn't get spanked, so then it seems strange to then captain Salah. So I thought, well, from your point of view, maybe Alonso. But I
think this is one of those weeks with the players I've got. I'm going to go for the ones that I think will get me some points, hopefully a haul, but just some points. And I think Salah and Kane will get me some. I think they're just consistent at the moment. But
one day I will tease you into a Maverick captain choice, Joe. One day. Try it. Have you not noticed? Every Scoutcast, I try and throw a different captain.
And it will go amazingly, and then you'll just convert him to always doing it.
What I'm going to do, game week 38, if I've got to my, I don't know, if there's nowhere for me to go, really, I'm at a good point, then I will, I'll be getting the Alonso captaincy out. But long way off. Thanks so much.
Name writing.
Yes, no, yeah, long wealth, and but yeah, thanks so much for joining me, everyone. And but for now, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Good night.
And goodbye.
Goodbye, all.